Joining us now in Studio B is the man that will go behind the mic tonight at 8 Eastern. He's behind the mic with us as well. Greg Wrubell, radio voice of the Cougars. Greg, great to have you back on the show.
Jeff Teague.
Oh, Jeff
yeah,
Teague.
Jeffrey
How do we
Teague.
forget Jeff Teague, who dominated BYU in the Marriott Center?
Ish Smith.
Ish Smith.
Yeah. James Johnson.
Oh, James Johnson.
Yeah,
James Johnson.
Yeah.
Ish Smith.
Short for Ishmael, but you know.
I would hope.
Yeah.
That's some great polls, Greg.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, well done.
Well, it's great to talk to you.
Good to be back with you guys.
Wake
yeah.
Forest Sports Nation.
Yeah.
Greg, tell us about the guest lineup tonight. We talked about the long-form interviews. It's been a lot of fun to just kind of get to know these distinct and unique BYU personalities through your show.
Like Spencer Linton, who led off last week's show.
Okay, yeah.
David Nixon tonight, Ed Eyestone, and Mark Bigelow.
Oh, man.
What's up with Mark Bigelow, man?
We're going to find out tonight.
Still in Washington?
He's not.
Oh.
Stay tuned.
Oh, snap.
That's a great tease. Yeah, that's a great tease. Tonight, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain. Okay, now to our Twitter question, Greg. How many points will BYU football have to score against Utah State to make you feel better about the general direction of this team and offense?
Well, in the last 30 meetings against Utah State, BYU's averaging about 36 points per game. And that's, you know, they've had a lot of high-scoring games. They've only scored fewer than 20 I think 3 times in the last 30 years or
Wow.
so. So they generally score well against Utah State. Rather than putting a number on it, I want them to score as many points as it will take to get the W.
To win the game.
We already know that Utah State can score some. They were up 55-0 on San Jose State last week. So if that's who they are, and, you know, they had a 61-point game against the FCS. They had lower-scoring games against the good FBSs they played, the P5s. But they've been proving the ability to score some points. So if you can outscore Utah State, that's good enough for me.
We've been talking about the offense the last couple weeks and the whole season about, like, okay, they need to get it going. What I think we've ignored is the role maybe the defense can play in helping the offense. There haven't been as many takeaways as last year, and I think maybe that's affected the offense in some way this season. What do you think?
So last year, only one team had more takeaways than BYU. This year, although it's early, only 7 teams have fewer takeaways than BYU. So this has been a really drastic shift on that side of the equation. And yeah, I mean, if you're number 2 in the team and number 2 in the nation in takeaways, you're probably going to have a pretty good record, and they did. They were 9-4 last year. You look at the teams who are leading the nation in takeaways right now, and there are a couple of 4-0 teams. That's generally going to happen. And you know, combined with the takeaway number is the disruption factor. Coach Tuiaki, Coach Sataki and Coach Lamb talk a lot about just the disruption element. And we've referenced havoc rate earlier on this program. And that's your tackles for loss, your passes defended, which are picks and breakups, and your fumbles forced. Those are your disruptive plays. Well, last year's havoc rate for BYU was over 17%. Almost 1 in every 5 plays was some kind of disruption. Well, this year it's 10%. So 1 in every 10 plays is now disrupted. So that's also a big component. And the reason the picks aren't happening is because the disruption's not happening up front. And so they've got to get better up front to help the guys in the back.
BYU is having a hard time staying on the field offensively.
Yeah. Possession time is a big thing I'm going to look for as well. What I want to see from the offense at Logan, I want them to have a possession time edge. It's not everything, and there are teams that don't need the possession time edge to score a lot of points, but for BYU right now, I think that's a good indicator of if they're improving is can they stay on the field. There's a 12-minute swing from last year to this year in possession time. That's a huge alteration. They were +5 per game. And they're now, I think, -7 per game. And so it's a 12-minute swing right now in possession time. In fact, it may even be more drastic. It may be a 17-minute swing, 5 and then 12. Either way, I think that'll be an indicator that they're heading the right direction if they can stay on the field a little more. Utah State has exactly twice as many first downs as BYU. 43 for the Cougs, 86 for the Aggies. The Aggies had 98 plays in their last game, and BYU is coming off, a game in the high 40s, I think. So, there are some indicators that have to flip around, pretty quickly right now, I think, for BYU to show they're making some progress.
In a ball control offense, it is death if you do not have more time possession. It's just bad. So BYU has played this incredibly tough schedule. Sagan ratings, 6th toughest schedule. Have we underestimated how hard those 3 games were and what effect they've had on the season? Because if BYU plays, as Spencer pointed out, South Florida's schedule of Stony Brook and San Jose State and Temple, and Illinois.
Illinois picked to finish last in the
BYU
Big
might
Ten.
be 4-0,
Yeah.
and the rhetoric is different.
I think it'll take us a while to be able to answer that question. They knew they'd be tough, and I think no one saw them being this tough because of how hard the offense has had it. And so it'll take 10, 11, 12 games till we say really what that 3-game stretch meant to this team. Was this team just being held back by the by the caliber of opposition and kind of magnified the growing pains? They then settled through. Again, time will tell. But I think a really good indicator is Friday. Now you're talking about a team that historically you play well against, 30-5 in the last 35 meetings against Utah State. Historically, you score well against them. So I think it's a really good barometer game and will give us an indication of where this team can go for the rest of the season. I think it's a huge game Friday. I think so much rides on getting a result on Friday night in Logan.
You hosted BYU football with Kalani Sitake last night in Studio C. After that show ended, what was your feeling like from the coach about the morale and the attitude of the team going into this game?
Well, I think he thinks they've done and said the right things since their last game. But you could sense, and he said it last night, you can say a lot of things, and you can have meetings, and you can put yourself in the right frame of mind, but it still comes down to you need to get the result on Friday night in Logan. And so that's what we're all waiting to see is can they turn it around to the extent where they can pick up the result they need, I think, to put this season in a positive direction. He's frustrated and yet encouraged that a turnaround is evident and imminent. And he said, and these were his words last night, can't get any worse. They're at a low point right now. It's a really low point for this program, especially on offense. And so nothing, but better days can be forecast.
Vegas says BYU is a 3-point favorite against Utah State. How do you feel about this matchup Friday between these two teams at this point in the season? It's
more fair for BYU than they've seen in the last few games, and that's all you can ask right now is a more accurate representation of who you are and where you are. I think Wisconsin's probably as tough as it gets, O-line, D-line. And the challenge might be a little more, fair, I think, for BYU this Friday.
The Aggies, on paper, obviously we know that they can score points against San Jose State and Idaho State. What else do they do well from your preparation?
Special teams. And that's an area where BYU's been okay, but not really productive to a point where it's been an element of their offense or their scoring attack, for let's say. Utah State hasn't missed a kick. All right, their two kickers are 9 for 9 on field goals, 15 for 15 on PATs, and they've made long field goals. They have a 52-yarder in there. They've got a bunch of 40-yarders in there. BYU doesn't have any of those. So the kicking game is solid. They favor a pooch kick that against San Jose State resulted in 2 recoveries. Not onside, but they put it in that soft area at around the 30-yard line. They recovered 2 of those. They've blocked 3 punts. So they're disruptive and productive in special teams, and BYU's been neither of those things in the special teams to this point. So if you're saying it's more of a 50-50 type toss-up game, a 3-point favorite on the road, special teams can have a big say in sudden change and those kinds of plays that Utah State's been specializing in, and BYU not so much. When Utah State gets to the 35, they're thinking of scoring, and they've been scoring. BYU's got to get inside the 20 to reasonably expect points from their kickers, and that you hope long-term changes to where you can get a kicker in that is good, from 40, 45, 50. That hasn't been a regular feature of BYU's offense for a long time.
It's a weekly staple. In fact, I would say it's at the heart of what this show is.
Let's hope not.
It's Spencer and I. Also, there's a thing called A Cool Thing About Canada. What do you have for us this week, Gregory?
Well, here in the States, we have a thing called Columbus Day, right?
October 12th, or thereabout. Monday.
October 9th this year. Second Monday in October.
Yeah.
The second Monday in October here is Columbus Day. The second Monday in October up north is always Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving happens on Columbus Day every year. Second Monday in October, Canadian Thanksgiving.
Are they grateful Columbus showed up in the West Indies or whatever?
We're grateful for different things.
Like what?
Hockey.
Ice and stuff?
Yeah, maple syrup and whatnot. But we do the same things we do down here. It's turkey, it's stuffing, it's mashed potatoes, it's cranberry, it's a couple football games, Thanksgiving Day Classic.
Is it pilgrim? But it's not like pilgrims.
It's our own deal. Yeah, but we're
like
we're
they
thankful.
showed up in like Nova Scotia or something?
We should all be grateful.
Yeah.
We should all be thankful. It doesn't matter what you're thankful for. Just have a day of thanks. That's what we're all about.
On a Monday.
It's a Monday.
On a Monday.
Yeah.
Would you rather have I'd rather have a Thursday off because then I'd probably have the Friday off too.
Well, it's always a 3-day weekend. There's always football involved. It's
Yeah.
Thanksgiving Day in Canada, second Monday in October, a.k.a. Columbus Day down here. Again, be grateful.
Does Black Tuesday happen after that Monday?
I don't think that's part of it.
No,
Yeah.
In Canada, it's White Tuesday also.
We don't hit the stores the next morning, I don't think. Yeah.
yeah.
We're not really
Gotta-
buying for Christmas at that
Gotta
point.
line
We
up
still
at
have some
Best
time.
Buy on Black
We're buying
Mine
for
for
Halloween.
Halloween.
We're buying for Halloween. Yeah, there we are.
Here's what I love about this segment as the anthem ends. I love the anthem. I didn't know that. Like, I never know what you're coming up with next. At some point, you may. No, you're not going to run out. There's plenty of.
You know, I'm here to entertain, but I'm also here to inform
Yes.
and educate.
I thought it was informed
You know,
first.
I
but
want
love
someone
it.
to learn. I want someone to come out with something.
Yeah.
I learned something today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see Greg on the streets, he's out at lunch. I want you to tell him. I want you to tell him, hey, I learned something today. Thank you. Okay? Do it.
Infotainment at its finest.
I'm all about.
Don't miss Greg Wrubell behind the mic tonight, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain. Great to have you, Greg.
All right, go Cougs.